The glass lobby of Blue Horizon luxury residences shimmered like a jewel box, polished marble floors reflecting overhead chandeliers, floor-to-ceiling windows catching the early morning sun, and tenants drifting through with their coffee cups and curated smiles. Nadia El Farouk stood in the center of it, her navy power suit precise, her sleek dark hair falling neatly down her back, silver-rimmed glasses framing her calm expression. She looked like a woman who belonged everywhere, and yet at this moment her husband made her feel like she belonged nowhere at all. Rami's voice cracked through the lobby like a whip. Maintenance fees? You are asking about maintenance fees. He let out a loud, derisive laugh, turning so the tenants could catch every syllable. Nadia, you don't pay for anything, you don't contribute anything. You're lucky I let you live here. A few people slowed their steps. Some pretended to check their phones. Others exchanged looks, quick, sharp glances that said again. He's doing this again. Nadia swallowed, her throat tight. The air smelled faintly of the building's signature vanilla cedar diffuser, but right now, all she could smell was humiliation. Rami stepped closer, the scent of his overpowering citrus cologne filling her space like a boundary she could not cross. His flashy designer blazer reflected the lobby's lights, and his gold watch glinted every time he pointed a finger at her, which was often. You think you can question me about finances? He scoffed. You don't work, you don't earn, you don't even understand the bills I pay every month to keep this place running. Nadia kept her expression carefully still. Calm, controlled. She had mastered the art of making her face an unreadable mask. Even when her heart throbbed with embarrassment, she glanced at the tenants. A mother holding her son's hand, a businessman waiting for his rideshare, a college girl with earbuds paused halfway out. They weren't laughing, they weren't mocking, they were watching. Rami, seeing eyes on him, puffed his chest. This wasn't an argument anymore, it was a performance. You're financially useless, he declared loudly. A dead weight. If you weren't my wife, you wouldn't last one day in this building, not one. A tenant gasped softly, Nadia's fingers tightened around the strap of her handbag. The marble under her heels felt cold. The echo of Rami's voice reverberated against the walls like a physical sting. Inside, her thoughts whispered, why does he forget? Or does he know and hope I never speak? I gave up everything to build a life with him. And this is what I get, shame delivered in public like a verdict. Rami waved her off dismissively, already turning toward the concierge desk. Next time you have questions about money, he threw over his shoulder, don't embarrass me in front of people, just keep quiet. The room held its breath. Nadia didn't respond, not with words, not with tears. She simply inhaled, let her expression soften into something unreadable, and walked toward the elevator with her spine straight, each step measured with a grace that made the moment seem less like defeat, and more like the beginning of a long, deliberate countdown. As the elevator doors slid shut behind her, the world muffled into silence. Only then did she let her eyes drop. Her home office greeted her with stillness. Dark wooden shelves, a tidy glass desk, a soft hum from the air conditioning. The scent of cedar was stronger here, because the truth lived in this room. She crossed to the desk drawer, the one with the false bottom. Her fingers brushed the hidden latch, and with a soft click it lifted. The thick cream-colored folder emerged, stamped with a raised gold seal, the property deed, the real power in the building. She sat down slowly, the weight of the folder resting in her lap. It smelled faintly of old paper, history, and the cedar oil her father loved. Elegant serif title caught the light, transfer of ownership. Blue Horizon luxury residences, her fingertips traced the name printed beneath it, owner. Nadia El Farouk, a breath she had been holding for years escaped her chest. Rami's rushed, messy signature sat at the bottom, slanted and sloppy, a perfect symbol of the day he had dismissed the document as minor paperwork. While he scrolled through his phone, he hadn't read it. He hadn't even cared. He had signed away everything he now flaunted as his own. Nadia closed her eyes, letting the truth wash over her like a quiet tide. Not today, not yet. Revenge requires timing. He wants an audience. Fine, let him have one. When the time comes, he'll wish no one had been watching. She slid the folder back into its hiding place, closed the drawer, and rested her hands on the polished surface of her desk. Her heartbeat was steady now, her breathing slow, her resolve sharpening like glass. Downstairs, Rami strutted through the lobby, thinking he had won. Up here, Nadia already held checkmate. Before we continue, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next drama. And if you're enjoying this story so far, drop a comment below. Your support helps us bring you more fascinating stories. Nadia rose from her chair and walked toward the window. From her office on one of the upper floors, the entire lobby was visible, the spot where she had been humiliated minutes ago. People were still whispering. A few glanced up toward the floors above, as though guessing she lived somewhere in the unseen levels of the tower. Her gaze drifted to the city skyline. The sun had climbed higher, painting the horizon in gold. The building, all 30 stories of glass and stone, gleamed softer now, as though acknowledging the truth only she carried. She squared her shoulders. This was not the end of her humiliation. It was simply the beginning of her plan, because the building wasn't his symbol of status. It was her inheritance, her legacy. Her battlefield, and soon her victory. Down in the lobby, she saw Raymai laughing with the concierge, gesturing broadly like the king he imagined himself to be. Nadia watched him until her lips curved, not in joy but in understanding. The kind that comes right before a storm. You think you let me live here, Raymai, she thought, but you live in my shadow, and you don't even know it. The morning after Raymai's lobby spectacle, Blue Horizon felt heavier than usual, like the building itself remembered every echo of his insults. Nadia stepped out of the apartment they shared, her navy suit immaculate, hair sleek, glasses resting lightly on her nose. She moved quietly, her presence soft yet composed, but the hallway lights seemed too bright, the silence too sharp, as if waiting for a new wound to open. She had hoped, naively, foolishly, that Raymai would wake calmer today. But the moment she reached the elevator, she heard the unmistakable click-click-click of his expensive designer loafers behind her. A rhythmic, arrogant sound that told the world he believed he owned every surface he walked on. Nadia, his voice cut through the hallway. Where do you think you're going dressed like that? She turned slowly. Raymai stood a few paces away, adjusting his gold watch, checking his reflection on the darkened window, making sure his overgelled hair stayed perfectly sculpted. Loud citrus cologne hit her nostrils before his words even reached her. I'm going downstairs, she said quietly. He scoffed. Not like that you are, she blinked, steady. Like what? Like someone trying too hard, he sneered. You don't need to pretend you're important, it's embarrassing. He circled her like a critic evaluating a piece he already disliked. And that suit again, didn't I tell you it makes you look outdated? Corporate women wear softer colors now, more flattering silhouettes. Inside, a part of her wanted to laugh. Outdated? This suit was custom-tailored from one of Cairo's top designers, but Raymai didn't know fashion. He only knew flash, shiny fabrics, loud labels, pieces that shouted wealth because he needed constant reassurance that he had it. She kept her voice level. I'm dressed fine, Raymai. You're dressed like you're going to beg for a job, he snapped. And that's not happening. I told you before we have an image to maintain. There it was again, we. Even though everything he showed the world relied on what he had unknowingly signed away, Rami checked his phone, then sighed dramatically. And don't think you're going to the charity brunch today. Nadia felt her breath catch slightly. I wasn't planning on saying much, just greeting people. You, he barked a short laugh. Greet people, Nadia, come on, you know how tenants gossip. You'll confuse them. They think you don't work. They think you don't contribute. What would they think if you show up? That I can't even keep my own wife in check. She felt the sting deep in her chest, sharp and humiliating, but her expression didn't change. Behind Raymai, one of the tenants, Mrs. Farley, passed by with her shopping tote. She gave Nadia a sympathetic look, one that said, I heard every word and I'm sorry. Rami noticed the look too, he liked it, because it meant someone had witnessed his dominance. Nadia lowered her eyes briefly, not in submission but in calculation. Raymai, she said softly, you know the tenants appreciate seeing both of us involved, it builds trust. He stepped closer, too close, lowering his voice but increasing its cruelty. You build nothing, he hissed. I build trust, I build connections, I build this family's reputation. And I won't have you ruining it with your bland clothing and awkward small talk. Her chest tightened. He wasn't always like this. Years ago, he had adored her quiet nature, called her thoughtful, steady, grounding. But somewhere along the line, her softness had become his justification for cruelty. She steadied her breathing. The elevator chimed open between them. Rami held up a hand. Actually, come here. Nadia stood still. He unzipped her handbag without permission, rifling through it. Her wallet, keys, lip balm, then he stopped. He pulled out her credit card wallet. Nadia, he said, shaking his head as if disappointed. We talked about this. She froze. Slid out each card, one by one, metallic, gold, black, embossed with her name. Her father's cards. Cards tied to her inheritance. Cards she could use if she chose, with zero need for him, but Raymai didn't know that. He assumed they were his. He assumed everything was his. He held up the stack. No more of these. You need to learn responsibility. He tossed them into his own pocket, patting it. I'll keep them until you can prove you won't spend like a child. Her pulse beat in her ears. Those cards are mine. You're taking what was never yours. She kept breathing, stayed still. He misread her calm as obedience. Look, he continued, you need to start earning your place. I can't keep defending you. Her eyes narrowed barely a millimeter. Defending me from what? From embarrassment, he snapped. People talk, Nadia. They say I married someone with no ambition, no value, no. A voice called from the elevator. Mr. Khalid, we're waiting downstairs. It was one of Raymai's business acquaintances, waving impatiently. Rami puffed his chest. Be right there, then he turned to Nadia. Stay home today, don't go anywhere, and don't show up at the charity brunch, I'll handle it. The elevator doors slowly began sliding shut. Rami leaned forward, voice dripping with smug superiority. And Nadia, at least try not to embarrass me again. The doors closed on his smirk. Silence settled over the hallway. Nadia stood there for a long moment. The air smelled of lemon disinfectant and stale ego. The soft hum of the fluorescent lights filled the quiet. Her hands trembled slightly before she hid them in her pockets. Inside, her thoughts spiraled. He doesn't want a wife. He wants an audience. A prop. A quiet shadow he can mold into whatever makes him feel important. But this building doesn't belong to his ego, it belongs to me. She inhaled softly, gathering herself. Another tenant rounded the corner, a college-aged girl, headphones around her neck. She paused, met Nadia's eyes, and offered a small smile, tentative but supportive. Nadia's lips lifted gently in return. Not all eyes in this building mocked her, some saw her, some recognized the cruelty she endured. And soon all of them would know the truth. Later, in the sanctuary of her office, she closed the door quietly, blocking out the world. The room felt cooler today, shadows stretching longer across the floor. Her heart still felt raw, tender, bruised from Raymai's words. She set her handbag on the desk. Opened the top drawer, the deed's hidden compartment remained undisturbed. She didn't take it out. Not yet, her fingers skimmed the wood, she didn't need to see the folder today. The knowledge alone was enough to steady her breath. The building's hum seemed to shift, like the pipes and wiring were whispering their allegiance to her, not to the man who strutted through the lobby like a king. She moved to the window, gazing down at the courtyard far below. Rami strutted across the pavement with his group of associates, gesturing loudly as if performing on stage. A few tenants stared after him, their faces etched with annoyance or discomfort. He thought he was the center. He had no idea that the ground beneath him, the very foundation he walked on, belonged to her. Nadia lifted her hand and pressed her fingertip gently to the glass. You think power comes from noise, she thought. But real power is silent, hidden, patient. Her stomach twisted with frustration. Then slowly, deliberately, untwisted as resolve settled in. He may strip her of cards. He may forbid her from events. He may try to shrink her world. But he would never take away the truth. Because I built this world, she reminded herself, and I'll take it back. Dinner at the Blue Horizon rooftop lounge was supposed to be elegant, soft music drifting from hidden speakers, warm lighting washing over glass walls, and the city glowing like a constellation beneath them. But as always, Raymai turned elegance into a weapon. Nadia walked beside him, her navy suit perfectly pressed, her hair smooth and straight despite the breeze. She carried herself with the quiet dignity he hated, because it made his loudness look desperate. Inside the restaurant, a long table had been reserved for the tenants and investors Raymai was so eager to impress. Silk napkins, glittering plates, delicate glasses arranged with mathematical precision. Nadia could hear the faint clink of utensils, the whisper of servers moving like shadows. Smile, Raymai muttered through his teeth. She did, softly, politely. The way she always had before he began policing her expressions. As they approached the table, he placed a firm hand on the small of her back, guiding her not with affection but with ownership. Everyone, he said loudly, you know my wife Nadia. A few nodded warmly, others offered polite smiles. Some glanced away awkwardly, clearly remembering his lobby outburst the day before. Nadia took a seat at the end of the table, folding her hands neatly, breathing in the smell of rosemary chicken, freshly baked bread, and lemon zest from the cocktails. It should have been comforting. Instead, her stomach knotted. Rami slid into the chair beside her, already laughing too loudly with Mr. Patel, a wealthy investor with a booming voice and questionable taste in watches. And here I thought you were coming alone, Mr. Patel chuckled. Nice to see you brought the lady with you, Rami smirked. Well, I try to include her where I can. She's not exactly business-minded, but she tries. A few people laughed politely. Heat flushed beneath Nadia's skin, warm and humiliating. She kept her features composed. A server arrived with a tray of appetizers. Soft clinks and gentle aromas filled the air. Nadia reached for a piece of toasted bread, simple enough, discreet, but Raymai tapped her wrist lightly. Careful, Nadia, he murmured. You always go for carbs when you're nervous. She drew her hand back slowly. Calmly, as though she hadn't just been corrected like a child. He wants an audience, she reminded herself. This is his stage. Conversation flowed around her in swirling threads. property values, investment rumors, travel plans. The soundscape was a mix of polite laughter, utensils tapping plates, and the distant hum of the city below. Nadia tried to anchor herself in sensory details: the flicker of candlelight, the warmth of the chair beneath her, the faint metallic scent of her water glass. But then it happened. A joke, a cruel one, delivered casually like the weather report. It came from the woman across the table, Elena, a polished investor's wife with diamond earrings large enough to catch the candlelight like flashes of lightning. So Nadia, Elena began, smiling with the sweetness of poison. Raymai tells us you used to work, what was it again, architecture? Yes, Nadia answered softly. That was ages ago though, Elena said lightly, sipping her wine. Right, Raymai, you said she hasn't worked in what, 4 years? Rami laughed, loud enough to turn heads at nearby tables. 5 actually, she tried being a homemaker but well, he shrugged dramatically, flashing his gold watch. Some people aren't cut out for either world. The entire table chuckled. Nadia sat perfectly still. Inside, something cracked quietly, invisibly, like a hairline fracture in glass. Her voice didn't shake when she answered. I stepped back because we agreed I would, for the family. Rami waved a dismissive hand. Oh come on, Nadia, don't act like you were doing serious work. Sketching ideas in a notebook is hardly contributing. Another round of laughter. It felt like a slap made of sound. Her breath hitched but she masked it, lifting her water glass, letting the cool rim touch her lips. Rosemary and lemon scented the air. The chicken before her steamed gently, she couldn't eat a bite. Honestly, Raymai continued, warming up to the audience, sometimes I think I should trade her in for a real investor's wife. Someone who knows how to charm a crowd. Someone who looks the part. Table erupted. A wave of laughter and clinking glasses washed over her like a boiling tide. Her face remained calm. Her hands stayed folded neatly in her lap. Inside, her thoughts were a raging storm. You joke about replacing me. In front of strangers, in the building I own. You mock my worth while standing on foundations my father paid for. You belittle me while eating food purchased under my property's profits. Let them laugh. Let them enjoy this moment. I am counting every humiliation. Every insult. Every witness, her vision blurred for a heartbeat, not from tears but from clarity. When the laughter died, the server refilled her water glass. The sound of the liquid pouring was crisp, comforting, a reminder that the world hadn't stopped, even if her heart felt bruised. Rami leaned toward her again, whispering but loud enough for others to hear. Maybe next time, stay home. These events require social skills. She stared ahead, breathing softly. I'm fine, Raymai. No, he smirked. You're not. But it's cute that you try. Cute, the word lodged itself deep inside her like a thorn. She felt something shift in her chest, no longer pain but resolve. The rest of the dinner blurred together. Nadia barely spoke, but she watched. She memorized faces, reactions, who laughed the loudest, who looked uncomfortable, who avoided her gaze. Knowledge was power, and she was collecting it quietly. When dessert came, raspberry tarts with dusted sugar, Nadia simply pushed her plate away. Rami noticed. See, he said loudly. She's too nervous to eat. Always has been, that's why I handle everything. She met his eyes then, and for a moment her calm expression wavered, not into anger, not into sadness, but into something quietly powerful, something he didn't recognize. He blinked, thrown off for a split second, then brushed it off and turned back to his audience. When the dinner finally ended, and they stepped into the quieter hallway toward the elevators, Nadia inhaled deeply, the scent of lavender from the lounge's air freshener mixing with the faint aroma of city smog drifting through the open rooftop vents. Rami walked beside her, checking his phone, basking in the glow of his own performance. Tonight went great, he said. Everyone saw why I'm the face of this building. Nadia exhaled slowly, her voice came out soft. Do they know what's behind the face? He paused. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing, she whispered. Just an observation, he frowned. Well, don't get philosophical, it doesn't suit you. The elevator doors opened, they stepped inside. Nadia watched the numbers climb. Her reflection in the elevator's mirrored walls looked composed, as always, but her eyes held a new fire. A simmering certainty. Let them laugh tonight, she would have the last word. And the last deed. They'll remember this day in shame when they learn who they mocked. The night the breaking point arrived didn't roar. It whispered, quietly, coldly like a blade sliding from its sheath. Nadia stepped into the apartment long after dinner had ended. The faint sounds of the city filtered through the balcony windows, distant horns, soft hums of traffic, and the rhythmic thrum of nightlife rising and falling like a heartbeat she no longer shared with Raymai. The lights were dim. The air smelled faintly of lemon cleaner and the remnants of Raymai's cologne, sharp, artificial, invasive. It clung to the air like his ego. She closed the door behind her and slipped off her heels, placing them neatly by the console table. Her navy suit jacket rested perfectly on her frame, still crisp despite the emotional bruises of the evening. She felt the weight of everything Raymai had said. Every laugh at her expense, every smirk, every jab disguised as humor. Her chest felt tight, but steady. She didn't tremble anymore. She didn't crumble the way she used to. She had already begun to change. Living room lights flicked on suddenly. Rami stood in the hallway, half irritated, half smug, as though he'd been waiting just to reinforce the final blow of the night. "There you are," he muttered. "I thought you'd sneak off and sulk. Glad to see you're managing your emotions better." She turned slightly, meeting his eyes without flinching. "I went for a walk. To process," he chuckled. "Nadia, people who matter don't process, they move on." He loosened his flashy blazer, dropped it on the couch, and strutted toward her. The gold watch sparkled under the lights. The heavy cologne clogged the air again. "You made the table uncomfortable tonight," he said, shaking his head as if she'd committed a crime. "Next time, try to smile more, or better yet, just avoid these events altogether." She said nothing. "You know," he continued, "Mr. Patel even asked me why I bring you. Maybe I should have listened." Still silent, it irritated him. Her silence always irritated him. It didn't clang or crash or retaliate, it simply existed, and that unnerved him. "Anyway," Raymai sighed, waving her off, "we need to talk living arrangements." Nadia's breath slowed. "Here it comes." Rami walked toward the kitchen, speaking louder so she would follow. She didn't. He still spoke as if she were right behind him. "I've been thinking," he said while pouring himself a drink. "The penthouse is really big, bigger than what you need." Her heart stilled. He continued, oblivious. "I think it's better if I start using it for business. Meetings, gatherings, deals, real work. You can move into one of the smaller units, something more suited to your lifestyle." Lifestyle, the word dropped like ice. She stepped deeper into the room, her heels clicking softly on the polished floor. "You want me to move out of our home?" He turned, leaning casually against the counter, drink in hand. "It's not our home. I pay for everything, remember? I need the space, Nadia. And honestly, you should be grateful. I could ask you to move off the property entirely." Her fingers curled inward slightly. Grateful he wanted her to thank him for eviction, he took a sip of his drink. "It won't be forever, just until you find your footing, emotionally, financially, socially," he shrugged. "Honestly, it's for the best." Her voice was soft. "For who?" "For both of us," he insisted. "You'll be out of the spotlight, and I'll finally have a proper space to entertain serious people." Nadia inhaled, slow and steady. The scent of his citrus cologne mixed with the bitterness of his drink filled the air, making it feel toxic, suffocating. He waved his hand again. "I'll call the leasing office tomorrow. I'll have them move your stuff to a smaller unit by the garden. It's cute, quiet, perfect for someone like you." Someone like her, quiet, small, hidden, a life he wanted to confine her to. Her voice barely rose above a whisper. "Raymai, I don't want to move." He set down his drink, irritation rising. "Do I have to spell everything out? You don't get to choose, you don't contribute anything here, I'm making the decisions. And the sooner you accept that, the smoother this goes." Something inside her finally, quietly broke, not shattered, not collapsed, but snapped with purpose. She felt the break like a door unlocking inside her chest, and suddenly she was calm in a way she hadn't been in years. "Okay," she said. Rami blinked, thrown off. "Okay." "I understand," she replied softly. The calmness unsettled him. He studied her face but saw only a smooth surface. "Good," he muttered, picking up his drink again. Finally, he walked toward the bedroom. "I'm sleeping. I have a meeting early tomorrow. Try not to make noise." Nadia watched him disappear into the hallway, watched the bedroom door close, watched the flicker of light underneath it vanish as he shut himself into another world. Then the apartment fell silent. She walked slowly to her home office, her footfalls steady. The contrast between the rich wooden floors and her cool composure made the space feel surreal, like the world was finally aligning with her truth. The office welcomed her, the quiet welcomed her, the shadows welcomed her. But what comforted her most was the drawer. That drawer, her hand reached for it with intention, not hesitation. The latch clicked softly as she pressed the hidden mechanism. The false bottom slid open. The cedar scent floated up, warm, familiar, grounding. Her fingers pulled out the thick cream-colored folder, the deed. She placed it on the desk, opened it slowly, and reread the pages with a new clarity. Her father's name, her own name, the official transfer, the terms, the rights, the authority Raymai never realized she held. She turned page after page, letting the legal truth sink deeper into her bones. She stopped at page 12. And there it was, the clause she had forgotten. Owner reserves the right to evict any resident, including family members, for misuse of property or harassment of tenants. Her breath caught, her heart thudded once firmly. She read it again. Evict any resident, any including a spouse. A soft sound escaped her. Half disbelief, half awakening, she leaned back in her chair, letting the moment land. Rami wanted to shrink her world, to confine her, to banish her into a smaller life. But what he didn't know. She had the legal right to remove him entirely, from the building, from the penthouse, from her life. Nadia closed the folder gently, almost lovingly. Her internal voice rose like a flame in the dark. You tried to shrink my world, but you forgot that I built it, and I can erase the parts that no longer serve me. She placed the deed back into the drawer, carefully, reverently, then stood, smoothing her navy suit with a calm finality. Tonight, the breaking point had arrived, quietly, coldly, perfectly. And soon, the world Ramai believed he controlled would belong to the woman who owned its foundation. The early morning sunlight spilled into Nadia's office, golden and steady, cutting through the faint dust motes floating in the air. She sat at her sleek glass desk, the navy suit perfectly pressed, her straight hair framing her calm, controlled expression. Around her, the apartment was still, the city below stirring, but inside, silence reigned. This was her sanctuary, her strategy room, her war room. She opened her laptop and let the soft hum of the machine fill the quiet, a sound almost meditative. Ramai's recent attempts at domination replayed in her mind like a broken film reel, his mocking laughter, the clinking of wine glasses, the fake concern of the tenants who thought she was nothing but a trophy wife. She had to catalog everything. Every humiliation had to be weaponized. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. She began typing the first notes: date, time, event, witnesses. Each entry was meticulous, precise, coldly factual. April 12, 7:03 p.m. Penthouse rooftop dinner. Ramai publicly jokes about replacing me with a real investor's wife. Witnesses: Mr. Patel, Elena, tenants A, B, C. The click-clack of keys echoed softly in the room, mingling with the faint aroma of freshly brewed coffee. She sipped slowly, letting the warmth anchor her as she recalled each insult with perfect clarity. Next came the financial trail. She opened a folder of receipts and statements she had quietly collected over the past months, documenting every expense Ramai had funneled into self-indulgence or unauthorized renovations. Each printout smelled faintly of ink and paper, the sharpness of the documents cutting through the rich coffee scent, reminding her that tangible evidence was power. She compiled screenshots of emails where Ramai had misrepresented funds to tenants, records of charges made under her name, but without her consent, even security footage showing him berating her in the lobby. Each piece was a piece of armor. Every witness testimony, a brick in the wall she was building around truth. The soft hum of her printer brought her out of her thoughts as she printed yet another set of documents. The faint smell of ink filled her nostrils, mingling with the cedar scent of the deed she kept in the desk drawer. They were all pieces of the puzzle she had begun to see clearly. She leaned back in her chair, hands folded. Her eyes wandered to the cityscape beyond the window, the luxury apartments of her neighbors shimmering in the morning light. To anyone else, the world looked flawless, serene, unattainable. But Nadia saw the undercurrents, the leverage, the threads that connected opportunity to power. You gave me everything I need, Ramai, she thought, her lips curving into the faintest of smiles. All I had to do was open my eyes. Her phone buzzed with notifications, work emails, social media alerts, but she ignored them. Now was not the time for distraction. She returned to the files. She drafted letters for tenant testimonials, carefully choosing her words to evoke empathy without revealing the full scope yet. The letters would make the tenants co-conspirators of truth, willingly providing evidence of Ramai's cruelty. She paused, letting her gaze drift over the neatly stacked folders. Her hands hovered over the topmost sheet, a testimonial from Mr. Patel, confirming Ramai's behavior at recent events. She traced the edge with her fingertips, absorbing the weight of its potential. The office clock ticked steadily, a reminder that time was moving, that patience was her ally. She thought back to the lobby incident, the words that had stung but now fueled her: financially useless, dead weight, undeserving. Each insult became a tool, sharpened and polished in her mind until it was lethal. Nadia moved to the desk drawer, sliding it open with a soft click. The deed rested there, untouched since the breaking point. She caressed the folder's cedar-scented cover, feeling the embossed gold seal beneath her fingers. Its presence was a constant reminder. Legal authority, hidden in plain sight. Soon this will speak louder than his words ever could, she mused. Soon every laugh, every sneer, every public humiliation will crumble in the face of truth. She returned to the laptop, her fingers poised above the keyboard. Each keystroke became deliberate, almost ritualistic. Financial charts were created, receipts digitized, and annotated with notes about discrepancies. She was constructing a dossier, airtight, undeniable, and poised for maximum impact. The day stretched on. The sun climbed higher, warming the room through the large windows. Nadia barely noticed, lost in her meticulous work. She paused occasionally to breathe in the aroma of her coffee, to feel the smooth texture of the deed's folder beneath her hand, to let the rhythmic ticking of the wall clock sync with her heartbeat. These were the sensory anchors keeping her grounded in a storm of strategy. By late afternoon, she had a stack of printed evidence ready, organized in labeled folders. Every insult, every misstep by Ramai, every moment of public and private humiliation catalogued. Every tenant testimony and financial discrepancy aligned like pieces of a carefully constructed trap. She stood, stretching, feeling the tight muscles of focus and anticipation loosen slightly. Her reflection in the glass desk surface looked calm, composed, confident, a stark contrast to the inner fire building steadily. Her navy suit framed her like armor, her straight hair immaculately in place, her silver-framed glasses reflecting the late afternoon light. She looked ready to conquer. And she was. You thought you could control me through shame, she thought, smiling faintly. But I control the evidence. I control the narrative. And soon, the world will know the truth. She gathered the folders, stacking them neatly on the edge of the desk. She placed the deed on top, as if to signify the crown jewel of her collection. Everything else, the humiliation, the witness statements, the financial records, was a path leading directly to it. The office door clicked as she left the room briefly to stretch, the faint aroma of ink and cedar following her down the hall. Her heels clicked softly on the polished floors, each step a deliberate measure of patience and poise. In that quiet moment, Nadia understood something profound. Revenge was not just about exposing Ramai. It was about reclaiming her life, asserting her presence in the world he had tried to diminish her in. Each piece of evidence, each carefully prepared testimony was a stepping stone toward justice. She returned to her desk, sitting down with renewed determination. Fingers hovered over the keyboard, ready to draft the final letters to tenants and organize the last set of financial records. The soft hum of her laptop, the faint smell of ink, and the cedar from the deed created a cocoon around her, a protective space where she could plot, prepare, and rise. The strategy was clear. The pieces were falling into place. The trap was almost set, and Nadia El Farouk, once mocked, belittled, and silenced, would soon have her voice heard, loud, undeniable, and irrevocable. The morning sunlight filtered through the tall windows of the lawyer's office, painting the cream-colored walls with a warm glow. Nadia adjusted her navy suit one last time, smoothing the sharp lines of her blazer. Her straight hair fell perfectly over her shoulders, and the minimalist nude lipstick she always wore gave her face a serene, controlled expression. She held the deed in her hands like a talisman, its cedar-tinged cover warm beneath her fingers. The leather chairs in the office smelled faintly of aged polish, the kind that whispered decades of power and decisions. The antique wall clock ticked in slow, deliberate intervals, marking each heartbeat of her resolve. Her heels clicked softly on the polished hardwood as she approached the desk, and her reflection in the glass of the certificates lining the walls seemed calm, composed, unassailable. Mr. Saeed, the family lawyer, sat behind a dark oak desk. His graying hair and sharp eyes gave him the aura of someone who had seen countless battles fought over contracts, estates, and property. He lifted a hand in greeting, motioning her to sit. "Good morning, Nadia," he said, his voice steady and measured. "It's been a long time since we've discussed the Blue Horizon documents." She nodded, placing the deed on the desk in front of him. The raised gold seal caught the light, glinting like a secret finally ready to be revealed. "I've reviewed the records," he said, flipping through the pages with meticulous care. "This deed is absolutely yours, full authority over the building. There's no ambiguity, no loopholes. Every tenant, every unit, every shared space, legally it belongs to you. Even your husband's occupancy is contingent on your consent." Nadia leaned back slightly, her calm expression unchanged, but inside, a surge of quiet triumph rippled through her. Her fingers traced the edge of the folder again, inhaling the faint cedar scent, grounding herself in the tangible proof of power she had always held. "And if I choose to proceed?" she asked softly, the words deliberate, controlled. He paused, glancing up at her with a flicker of surprise. His hands folded over the open pages. "Do you want to proceed publicly?" "Yes," she said, her voice steady. "Publicly." The lawyer nodded, the faint sound of leather shifting as he leaned back in his chair. "Then you have every right. There will be no legal challenge. And given the evidence you've collected, financial misuse, harassment, public humiliation, It's not just your right, it's justified. The office seemed quieter now, the faint hum of the air conditioner and the ticking of the clock amplifying the gravity of the moment. Nadia's eyes scanned the documents again, each page a reminder of the patience she had cultivated over months of silent suffering. She could almost hear the echoes of Ramai's arrogance, each laugh, each insult now catalogued as proof of his undoing. I want everything organized, she continued. Financial records, tenant testimonials, all of it. Ready for the tenant meeting. Every piece must be undeniable. Mr. Said's eyes narrowed slightly, impressed by her meticulousness. You've thought this through, very carefully. She smiled faintly, the smallest upturn of her lips that carried the weight of restrained fire. It has to be perfect. Timing is everything. The lawyer leaned back, hands resting lightly on the desk. Then you proceed with confidence, Nadia. This isn't just revenge, it's justice delivered with authority. You've earned the right to reclaim what is yours and, more importantly, to demonstrate that authority without compromise. She nodded, letting the words settle around her like the closing of a final contract. Every humiliation, every public jab, every private insult had led to this. And now she was ready to move forward, not recklessly, but with the precision of a master architect designing the ultimate structure of accountability. The room smelled faintly of old leather, polished wood, and legal ink, mingling with her own calm presence. She felt a subtle pulse of excitement, restrained and deliberate, coursing through her. The world she had endured, the life she had quietly endured for the sake of appearances, was about to be reshaped according to her design. Thank you, Mr. Said, she said softly, gathering the deed and neatly stacking the supporting documents. I'll see this through. Good, he replied, a faint smile tugging at his lips. And Nadia, remember, the truth has a way of speaking louder than any performance. Yours will echo. She paused at the door, letting his words resonate. The faint scent of polished wood lingered in the air, mingling with the cedar of the deed now safely tucked under her arm. As she stepped out into the corridor, the sun glinting off the marble floors, she felt the weight of anticipation settle into a quiet, steady resolve. Nadia knew what she had to do. The tenant meeting would be her stage, the documents her allies, and the deed, the ultimate revelation. Every move Ramai had made to humiliate her, every moment of public scorn had been meticulously recorded. She had the power, and she would use it, not with rage but with precision. The city outside continued its rhythm, oblivious to the storm quietly forming inside Blue Horizon luxury residences. Nadia's heels clicked softly against the sidewalk as she left the lawyer's office, each step echoing the inevitability of what was to come. Justice wasn't rushed. Justice wasn't loud. Justice, Nadia knew, was inevitable. And soon, Ramai would see it unfold before his very eyes. The afternoon sunlight streamed through the towering glass windows of the Blue Horizon conference room, scattering diamonds of reflection across the polished marble floor. The tenants filtered in, some chatting politely, others casting curious glances at the navy-suited figure standing at the front. Nadia adjusted the blazer of her tailored suit, her straight hair perfectly in place, and slid her thin silver glasses slightly higher on her nose. Calm, controlled, commanding attention without demanding it. Rami entered moments later, all flash and bravado. Designer blazer sharp, gold watch gleaming, hair slicked and overgelled as always. His presence filled the room with a heady scent of citrus cologne and confidence, the kind that masks insecurity. He strode to the front, a cocky smile plastered across his face. Everyone, thank you for coming, Ramai announced, voice booming. Today, we discuss upgrades and improvements to your homes. I've spearheaded some exciting changes. This is going to be a spectacular year for Blue Horizon. Nadia remained at the back, letting him bask in the illusion of control. He pointed at her once, smirking, as if to remind the tenants that she was merely a passive fixture in his world. He didn't notice the slight uptick in her posture, the subtle glimmer in her eyes. She let him play his part. The soft whir of the projector humming to life filled the room, accompanied by the faint scent of warm electronics and paper from the printed reports she had strategically placed on the conference table. Each slide she had prepared, financial charts, tenant testimonials, security footage, and receipts, glimmered with evidence of Ramai's misconduct. Her fingers rested lightly on the clicker, poised. The first slide appeared, a chart outlining tenants' contributions and the unauthorized expenses Ramai had mismanaged. Murmurs rippled through the room as eyes scanned numbers that contradicted Ramai's narrative. He frowned, squinting at the screen. Wait, what is this? His voice cracked slightly, betraying a flicker of uncertainty. Nadia's internal smile was almost imperceptible. Yes. Notice the cracks, She stepped forward, her heels clicking softly against the marble, each step measured, deliberate. The room seemed to contract around her presence. The soft hum of the projector synced with her heartbeat. "Good afternoon, everyone," she began, voice calm, deliberate. "I'm Nadia El Farouk, and I'd like to provide some clarity regarding the management of our building." Rami's smile faltered. He opened his mouth to interject, but she raised a single finger, silently claiming control of the room. "I've collected records," she continued, sweeping her gaze across the tenants. "Financial records, incident reports, and testimonials. Evidence of mismanagement, harassment, and misuse of funds under the guise of building improvements." The first murmurs of surprise grew into whispers, tenants leaning in closer, eyes wide. The soft shuffle of papers and subtle clearing of throats punctuated the tension. Rami's face reddened. He waved his hand dismissively, trying to regain dominance. "This is ridiculous, false accusations, lies." Nadia clicked the next slide, the deed. Cream-colored folder, raised gold seal, pages displayed in high-resolution images on the projector. His signature sprawled across the first page, slanted and hurried, exactly as he had signed years ago, unaware of its true significance. The cedar-scented proof of authority now visible to everyone. Gasps echoed across the room. Eyes widened. Phones were raised to record, the soft buzz of notifications filling the air as tenants documented the revelation. Ramai's mouth opened and closed, searching for words. You signed this," he stammered, voice barely audible as if the truth physically pushed him down into his seat. "Yes," Nadia replied softly, each syllable deliberate. "This building, the Blue Horizon Luxury Residences, is legally mine. Every unit, every tenant, every shared space, including the one you currently occupy." Silence. Then the room seemed to exhale collectively. Faint scent of ink from her printed reports mingled with the cool air, creating a tension so thick it could have been sliced with a knife. She advanced another slide. Financial misconduct, tenant complaints, and repeated public humiliation. Every insult, every act of cruelty meticulously documented, undeniable. Each tenant could see the evidence clearly, no room for Ramai's charm or deceit. Nadia's internal monologue remained calm, yet fierce. "You wanted an audience, Ramai, I'll give you one. Every sneer, every laugh, remember them. They'll echo as truth now, not lies." The room began to buzz with quiet murmurs, tenants whispering to one another, absorbing the truth. Their collective attention was no longer on Ramai but on her, calm, composed, in complete control. Rami's attempts to interrupt became frantic. These aren't." His words faltered as she clicked to the final slide. A close-up of his signature on the deed stared him down like a verdict. Nadia stepped closer to the front, her calm voice ringing clear. "Effective immediately, Ramai Khalid is evicted from Blue Horizon Luxury Residences due to financial misconduct and harassment. The building operates under my authority, and I will ensure that all residents are protected from similar behavior in the future." The room erupted, not with anger but with astonishment. Tenants whispered, exchanged glances, some nodding, some shaking their heads. Phones captured every second, the soft whir of recording devices filling the space. Rami stood frozen, disbelief etched into every line of his face. His carefully crafted facade had crumbled in minutes. He had built his ego on appearances and public dominance, and now, with the click of a projector, his empire was stripped away in front of an audience he could not manipulate. Nadia's internal voice spoke softly, almost tenderly. "This is the price of using me as a stage prop. You forgot that I built the theater." She clicked the projector off. The soft hum faded. The room settled into a stunned quiet, punctuated by shifting chairs and murmurs of acknowledgement. She glanced around, making eye contact with tenants who now saw her not as a silent partner, but as the rightful authority, the architect of justice in her own building. Rami's shoulders slumped. He opened his mouth one last time, a futile attempt to reclaim dignity, but the murmurs of tenants drowned him out. His gold watch gleamed uselessly in the overhead light, and the scent of citrus cologne, once overpowering, now seemed petty and insignificant. Nadia stepped back, letting the room breathe the weight of the revelation. She was composed, calm, and resolute. Her plan had worked. The trap had been set. The truth had been revealed, and now Blue Horizon and her life was finally hers to reclaim. The conference room was buzzing quietly with anticipation as tenants shuffled into their seats. The air smelled faintly of polished marble and warm coffee, a stark contrast to the tension simmering beneath the surface. Nadia remained at the back, her navy suit impeccable, her straight hair sleek, and her silver-framed glasses catching the light just enough to highlight the calm, unreadable expression she had perfected over months of patience. Rami was in his element, or so he thought. Designer blazer sharp, gold watch glinting, hair overgelled to perfection. He sauntered to the front, a wide, confident grin plastered across his face. The soft ping of his phone notifications went ignored. He was too busy basking in the presumed glory of control. "Good afternoon again, everyone," he said, voice booming, dripping with charm. "I'll be leading today's discussion on building operations. As always, everything is running smoothly thanks to my management." He gestured toward Nadia with a condescending wave. "And my wife here will be quietly standing at the back. She's just here for moral support, right?" A few tenants exchanged subtle glances, uncertainty flickering across their faces. Nadia allowed a faint, nearly imperceptible smile to tug at her lips. Inside, her mind was alight with strategy. Let him boast. Let him believe he is still the star. The higher he climbs, the harder the fall. The soft shuffle of papers and chairs mingled with the occasional click of Ramai's watch against the marble floor. Nadia took note of every sound, every movement, storing them like puzzle pieces in her mind. Her calm exterior concealed a sharp focus. This was the final setup before the reveal, and every detail had to be precise. Rami began his usual performance, speaking over the tenants, extolling his achievements, and downplaying any complaints. He laughed heartily at his own jokes, casting occasional smirks toward Nadia. She stayed silent, hands folded lightly in front of her, letting the subtle confidence radiate outward without a word. Her internal monologue whispered, "Yes, stand back as I promised. Your arrogance blinds you to what's coming." She glanced around at the tenants. Many were recording on their phones, some taking notes, a few simply watching intently. The murmurs of curiosity and expectation filled the room, a soft undercurrent that gave her power. This was her audience, and they would soon see the truth. As Ramai prattled on about management improvements, Nadia stepped quietly to the projector, fingers brushing over the remote in her hand. The soft whir of the device warming up seemed louder than it should have, echoing through her heightened awareness. She could feel her heartbeat, steady yet forceful, syncing with the mechanical hum. This is it, she thought. Every insult, every sneer, every dismissal, all leading here. Rami, oblivious, turned toward the projector, expecting slides about mundane upgrades. He hadn't noticed Nadia's subtle movements, the way she positioned herself for maximum impact. The first slide flickered to life, a financial chart showing unauthorized expenses and mismanaged funds. A ripple of surprise moved through the room. Ramai's confident smile wavered slightly, a flicker of doubt crossing his carefully constructed facade. He tried to interrupt, waving a hand dismissively, but Nadia's calm, deliberate voice cut through effortlessly. "Let's review the facts clearly. These are records of spending and tenant complaints documented over several months." The soft shuffle of tenants adjusting in their seats was punctuated by the quiet buzz of phones recording the moment. Ramai's phone pinged incessantly, notifications piling up, ignored by him as he scrambled to regain composure. She clicked to the next slide. The deed. Cream-colored, gold-sealed, bearing his signature in black ink. The cedar scent of its digital representation filled her imagination as she envisioned holding it in her hands once again, proof of her authority, waiting to strike. Gasps filled the room. Tenants leaned forward, whispers growing louder. Phones lifted to capture every second. Ramai's lips parted, searching for words that would somehow undo the damage, but none came. Her internal voice whispered, "The back of the room is exactly where I needed to start." Every eye, every ear, every mind focused on the truth, not your lies. She clicked to the final slide. A close-up of the deed's first page, his hurried signature glaring back at him. "Effective immediately," she said softly, deliberately. "All authority over the Blue Horizon luxury residences resides with me. Tenants, staff, and management will adhere to this legal reality." The room went silent, save for the subtle scratching of pens, the faint buzz of devices, and the collective intake of breath. Ramai's face had turned a deep red, his carefully maintained composure shattered. The weight of the revelation settled on him like a physical force. Nadia's calm presence radiated authority. Her internal monologue hummed with quiet satisfaction. Let him boast. Let him think he is untouchable. The fall from that pedestal is always the steepest. Tenants whispered among themselves, some nodding in recognition, others wide-eyed in shock. Ramai attempted to speak again, but his words were drowned by murmurs and the undeniable evidence now displayed before everyone. Nadia clicked the projector off. The software stopped, leaving a quiet echo in the room, a void where Ramai's bravado once dominated. She straightened, composed, every inch the architect of justice, every gesture deliberate. The final step, the public unmasking, was just around the corner. She had set the stage perfectly. Raymai had taken the bait, unaware that every move, every sneer, every false display of control had been recorded, catalogued, and would be used to dismantle his facade completely. She allowed herself a brief, private smile as she surveyed the room. The trap was set. The moment of reckoning was near. And when it came, it would be undeniable, irreversible, and utterly devastating. The conference room was electric with anticipation. Every seat was filled, every tenant eyes wide, some whispering nervously, others poised with phones raised, ready to capture the moment. The soft scent of polished marble mixed with faint traces of paper and coffee, a backdrop to the tension that had been building for weeks. Nadia stood at the front, navy suit sharp, hair sleek, glasses catching just enough light to reflect the calm precision in her expression. Her heels clicked softly against the floor as she approached the projector, the soft hum of the machine warming up in perfect synchrony with her measured heartbeat. Rami, at the front, had been fuming quietly, trying to maintain the facade of control. Designer blazer, gold watch, overgelled hair, and a forced smile plastered on his face, he looked every bit the confident husband. But inside, doubt gnawed at him. Every subtle glance from the tenants felt like a slight, every murmur a judgment he couldn't influence. Nadia took a deep breath, her internal monologue a quiet hum of strategy and resolve. This is it. Every insult, every sneer, every humiliation, it all ends here. The audience is mine. The stage is mine. The truth will be undeniable. She clicked the first slide. A detailed chart of financial mismanagement. Raymai's eyes flicked toward it, confusion and frustration rippling through his composed exterior. Murmurs swept the room as tenants leaned forward, phones clicking to record. "Good afternoon," Nadia began, voice steady, calm, authoritative. "I am Nadia El Farouk, legal owner of Blue Horizon Luxury Residences. Today I'd like to clarify some facts that have been conveniently overlooked." Rami attempted to interject, his voice sharp. This is," she raised a hand, a subtle gesture that silenced him instantly. Her internal monologue whispered, "The higher the pedestal, the further the fall." Nadia clicked to the next slide. There it was, the deed. Cream-colored folder, gold seal, pages meticulously displayed. His signature sprawled across the first page, slanted and hurried, proof of his unwitting hand in transferring authority. The room collectively inhaled. Phones rose, capturing the moment, murmurs turned into whispered astonishment. Raymai's mouth opened, closed, words failing him. "Yes," Nadia continued, voice calm, deliberate. "This building, every unit, every shared space, every tenant is legally mine. The authority you've believed was yours, Raymai, is a misconception you perpetuated with arrogance." Her fingers rested lightly on the remote, clicking to the next slide. Financial misconduct, tenant complaints, and evidence of repeated public humiliation. Every insult, every act of control catalogued with precision, undeniable. Rami's face drained of color. His eyes darted nervously to the tenants, searching for allies, but found only shock, curiosity, and growing respect for the woman standing calmly at the front. Nadia's internal voice whispered with quiet satisfaction, "This is the price of using me as a stage prop. You forgot that I built the theater." She stepped closer to the center, letting the collective gaze of the room fix on her. Effective immediately, Raymai Khalid is evicted from Blue Horizon Luxury Residences for financial misconduct and harassment. All tenants and staff will comply with this legal decision. Gasps and whispers filled the room. Some tenants clutched their phones, recording. Others sat back in astonishment, absorbing the weight of the revelation. The soft click of the remote echoed between statements, every slide reinforcing the undeniable truth. Rami tried to speak again, but no words came. His flashy blazer, gold watch, and overgelled hair, all symbols of control, felt meaningless against the undeniable reality of the deed. Nadia allowed a brief, private smile. Her internal monologue was quiet triumph. "You wanted an audience, Raymai, you have one. Witness your own undoing." She clicked off the projector. Silence settled over the room, thick and electric. The murmurs continued, softer now, tenants exchanging glances and reassessing the truth. Raymai's shoulders slumped, the facade completely gone, the weight of exposure pressing down with every heartbeat. Nadia straightened, calm, composed, the architect of her own justice. Her navy suit and sleek appearance radiated authority, and her measured breaths carried the quiet satisfaction of a plan executed flawlessly. The building and her life was hers. The soft hum of devices recording the event and the faint scent of printed reports mingled with the polished room, a sensory testament to her meticulous preparation. Every insult, every act of control, every whisper of mockery had been catalogued, ready to be revealed with precision. And now it had been. She glanced around the room, catching the eyes of tenants who nodded in recognition, some smiling softly in solidarity. Raymai remained frozen, helpless under the weight of undeniable evidence. Justice is slow, deliberate, and undeniable, Nadia thought, her calm exterior masking the surge of victory within. And this is the moment it speaks. The stage was hers. The audience had witnessed the truth. The fall was complete, and as she stepped back, letting the gravity of the revelation settle, she felt an unshakable sense of control and liberation, finally, fully, completely hers. Morning light spilled into the penthouse, filtering softly through floor-to-ceiling windows. The scent of fresh paint and polished wood filled the air, a tangible reminder of new beginnings. Nadia moved slowly through the space, the soft clack of her heels against the newly refinished floors echoing lightly. Navy suit now replaced with a crisp, tailored blouse and trousers, she felt lighter, unburdened, the weight of months of humiliation and planning finally lifted. The penthouse, once a battleground for Raymai's ego, had been transformed into a reflection of her own vision. Clean lines, warm textures, and open spaces that spoke of empowerment and autonomy. She paused on the balcony, the soft morning birdsong filling the air, taking in the panoramic view of the city that had once been the backdrop to her public shaming. Now it was hers, every building, every street, every light a reminder that she had reclaimed what was rightfully hers. Tenants arrived throughout the morning, offering nods, smiles, and quiet congratulations. Their expressions carried respect and admiration that had been absent before, a silent acknowledgement of her strength and authority. One tenant approached with a tentative smile. "Thank you for standing up for us," he said softly. "We've never had a landlord like you." Nadia returned a warm, measured smile. "It's my responsibility to protect everyone here. That hasn't changed, and it never will." Her voice was calm but firm, a reflection of the control she now fully possessed. Meanwhile, Raymai had attempted to approach, his designer blazer slightly rumpled, gold watch catching the light in a way that now felt almost comical. His overgelled hair was slightly disheveled, a small, visible crack in his once perfect image. Security intercepted him at the entrance, escorting him out quietly but firmly. His protests were drowned out by the polite but firm insistence of the staff, and the tenants watched, some shaking their heads, others subtly smirking. Nadia observed the scene with a quiet detachment, internal monologue running smoothly like a calm river. This isn't about revenge anymore. This is about reclaiming myself, my space, and my dignity. Every step I take now is toward freedom, not spite. Back inside, she settled at her desk in the penthouse office, opening the laptop she had cleared for the reopening of her architectural firm. The faint hum of the machine was comforting, a reminder that her life and career were once again hers to shape. She flipped through design plans, her mind buzzing with ideas, possibilities, and the excitement of creation. The air was filled with the faint scent of cedar and paper from legal documents neatly stacked in the corner, a quiet reminder of the meticulous planning and patience that had brought her here. She glanced at the folder that had started it all, now safely stored in a locked drawer, the weight of its presence both empowering and grounding. Her phone pinged with congratulatory messages from tenants, colleagues, and old friends who had watched the story unfold. Nadia allowed herself a brief smile, a small but significant acknowledgement of the new chapter in her life. She thought of Raymai's arrogance, the way he had assumed control through appearances alone, and shook her head gently. He built his kingdom on illusions. I built mine on truth. The soft rustle of papers and the distant hum of the city below created a serene backdrop as she began sketching new designs, her mind sharp, her vision clear. Every line drawn was a statement of autonomy, every measurement a testament to her regained authority. Looking out over the skyline, Nadia's internal monologue was filled with clarity and resolve. I didn't just reclaim my home. I reclaimed myself. Every corner, every room, every tenant's life I touch now is under my stewardship, and I will honor it. The soft morning light shifted as she leaned back in her chair, taking a deep breath, feeling the weight of months of planning, humiliation, and strategy lift fully from her shoulders. She was finally free, her life, her building, her career, and her dignity restored. A gentle knock at the door announced a tenant, bringing papers to review for upcoming renovations. Nadia smiled, rising with poise and confidence, ready to guide, lead, and create. The penthouse was no longer just her home. It was a symbol of strength, resilience, and quiet triumph. Her gaze lingered on the city below one last time, a soft, private thought lingering in her mind. Every building has its architect. I am finally the one in control of mine. Did you like the story? Make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more gripping tales of empowerment and justice. With love and respect.